Hello everybody, we are the Geeks and Degenerates. I am Menzo, this is my forever co-host Jump. Today we are wrapping up our third year anniversary lineup with one of the most beloved movies of all time, The Shawshank Redemption. Um, First questions first as always, how did you first come to this movie?
Uh, I wasn't really choosing to watch Shawshank. We just run into it in HBO when we were younger, and I feel like the only time I really fully watched this movie was when I was 15. But like I would see it on HBO, but it's usually around the end
Yeah,
where like Andy Dufresne's like making his breakout.
yeah,
I was like, "Ooh, I wanted to watch the rest of this movie." By the way, I think it was censored. Like
definitely.
majority of it was censored, um, in like HBO and Star Movies. But I finally was like, I guess Watchamojo kind of was like, "Oh, one of the greatest movies is Shawshank Redemption." I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot."
Yeah,
And I watched it. I was like, "This shit's really fucking good."
yeah,
It's a slow, but very nice, and like a video game got inspired to be to like to make a story somewhat the same as this.
which one?
I think Way Out.
Oh, didn't
Yeah,
know that.
so it was very Shawshank Redemption kind of deal.
Okay. Yeah, like you, I think I got this from Watch Mojo. Like, again, best movies of all time, or greatest movies of all time, and again, like Seven Samurai. I've always heard about this movie. I just never had the time before to watch it. But then when Netflix came to the Philippines, it was there, and I'm like, wow, that's convenient. Can finally watch this movie. Had such a great time watching this movie, and just like a lot of movies, I can watch this from wherever point it starts in. Like if I'm channel surfing, well, channel doesn't really exist anymore, but back in the day, if I was channel surfing and stumbled upon this, I'm like, I'm watching this all the way. There's no way I'm not watching this, like Jurassic Park or any other movie like this that came before and after it.
Yeah,
And I think majority of cinephiles agree, or like majority of like movie fans agree of like this is definitely one of the most beloved movies of all time. Because there are movies that obviously you don't watch and repeat. There, God forbid, there are movies that you're like, I'll watch this once and never again. And there are movies like Shawshank when you're like, yeah, I can watch this forever. I can just hit replay right now and just watch it again. Not gonna
hmm.
lie. But yeah, you touched on like Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, is in jail for a crime that he may or may not have committed. At the beginning, you don't really know for sure.
Yeah,
All, all you know is that the first impression is like, God damn, Tim Robbins has such sad looking eyes. I can't look
yeah.
away. For
And I
the
was like, even the sentencing was like, when you hear it's like, oh, you're gonna be sentenced to 2 lifetimes in prison. I was like, how do you serve that?
right?
Uh, and like for one for each life that and like I was like wondering how did he get in jail? And
Right?
then when I saw the story, I was like, I get it. Like the girl was like cheating on him the entire time
Yeah.
with this what was he, like a tennis player or
A
something?
golf player, and he's like,
Golf player.
what's her? I caught her in the arms of another. If you know that song.
I did. Yeah, I just didn't recognize it because you're off key.
I know that's how we never get copyrighted. You know, that's the key. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, he lands in jail, and we are introduced to Warden Norton and his what bailiff, his sheriff, the
Yeah.
Captain
Played by
Hadley.
Nancy Brown.
Yeah, for a while I'm like, who is this guy? Why is he so terrifying?
I was like, did I just hear?
Like Luther,
Did I just hear? No, did I just hear Mr. Krabs say a horrible word?
right? And I do love how also imposing, intimidating Warden Norton is, because this is
Yeah.
like, here you will learn discipline and God's word. You will learn God's word while your ass belongs to me. And you're like, what an introduction. Like you see how terrifying Captain Hadley is when he beats the shit out of that fat prisoner. You're like, oh God, poor
Yeah.
bastard.
Yeah, and like they're all like betting was like who's the one who's gonna break first on the
Yeah,
first day. And it's usually the case.
yeah,
And uh but yeah, it's pretty much just character development. Nothing not a lot happens besides oh, the horrible sides of prison.
Yeah,
You know,
you're
where there's this gang called what did they call them again?
the sisters
The Sisters, and I was like,
making the
Eesh.
first 2 years of Andy's life in prison absolute hell. You're like, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ. It's not I like. It's not graphic too, but by narration by Red, you're like, oh God. Um,
yeah, I felt bad, and
the
it was very creepy. Like I really felt uncomfortable by the ringleader of the Sisters. Great
uh,
job on the actor. Who is he? Like I've seen him somewhere
I'm
before.
not sure, but did you know Andy Dufresne was supposed to be played by the two famous Toms of Hollywood, Tom Hanks and Tom
Ooh,
Cruise? Uh,
I feel
I,
like Tom Hanks would have done an amazing job if, like but
yeah,
I'd say, fuck, what's his name?
Tom Cruise.
No, no, the
Oh,
actual
Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins did a really good job.
Yeah, and like I think Tom Cruise changed his mind when they changed the first director, Rob Reiner, to this one who is Frank Darabont, and he's like, I'll do something else, and they got Tim
Yeah,
Robbins. Also, we get introduced to Red, where I do love the parallel when we first see him and he's in the parole hearing, and he's like, yeah, I've been rehabilitated. I'm good now. I'm not a threat to society. Denied. You're like, oh, that
yeah,
sucks. Um,
yeah,
and the line where he's like, where Andy's like, why are you called Red? It's probably because I'm Irish. And that's because in the book, he is white and he is Irish. And he was supposed to
yeah,
be played by Clint Eastwood and or Harrison Ford. So
yeah.
that's just a
So
little nod to like, oh, now you're Morgan Freeman. And I think this is the
yeah,
movie that made Morgan Freeman the narrator for everything now, because his voice is something else. You're like, oh God, to listen to him narrate my life. Going, not gonna lie, I would love
yeah.
that.
Even if I am in prison or some shit like,
Right? Hopefully, I'm not if he narrates
yeah,
that part of my life. But yeah, Andy's life gets better when, or somewhat better when, he is he helps advise Captain Hadley, even though Captain Hadley almost throws him off the roof, and they're like, whoa, 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 man, I'm here to
yeah. When
have a
they were like resetting the roof, and then like it was like, uh, what was it? Like he got money from his dead brother,
yeah, but the IRS
and
would just take
like
majority of it away.
yeah, but Andy Dufresne was like, he's a banker, a really good banker.
Yeah.
He was like, if you give it to your wife as like, I forgot how it goes, but like,
Do you
you could
trust your
actually
wife?
keep all, yeah, yeah, you could keep all of it if you give it to your wife. And
Yeah,
he's like, oh, all right.
not
So like, there was a certain like sense of respect
yeah.
there,
Not the best
and
conversation starter where he's like, do you trust your wife? He's like, do you trust gravity, bitch? You're about to find out.
yeah, like Andy Dufresne should have like, should have started out with like a little bit of a better,
Yeah.
you know.
Opener.
Yeah, and like, but yeah, like there was a bit of a like self respect between them. They're like, all right,
Yeah.
you made me keep like $30,000,
How,
and I guess in World War II money, oh well, not World War II, like it was in the 50s.
no, correct. Well, post World War II 40s.
Oh,
And
okay, it was in the 40s. Yeah, it was like that's a lot of money.
yeah.
Uh,
And he gets
so
the men
yeah,
beer, and that really forms the bond between Andy and the men. And
yeah,
again, mutual respect to Captain Hadley, to the point where when he gets attacked by the sisters again to an inch within in his life, Captain Hadley's like, you know what, enough of this shit, and
yeah.
and
Pretty much beats him to his paralyzed. I was like,
yeah,
that's rough, but like, thank you.
yeah, you're like
'Cause to be
that,
honest, that guy was really creeping me out.
yeah, you're like that's rough. Hit him again, please.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's horrible, dude.
Yeah, right.
But
And,
yeah, he gets to a point where he's like hospitalized, and he's like not even in a prison. He's in like he's in a hospital.
right, just miserable forever, and you're like, you know what? The way Red describes how you run this prison, it's probably for the best for everyone.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then Andy's life gets considerably better because he gets in favor with Warden Norden, helps him launder money, gets in a better
mm,
position with the library. That's where we meet Brooks for the first time, and Brooks is just such a angel of a man. You're like, uh, I feel like we're family here, and he really is this warm and gentle soul. Takes care of the
Yeah,
birds, comes this way, until the day he has one of the men by the throat with a pen with a knife, and you're like, "What the fuck happened with you?" And he goes,
it's,
he says something like, "It's the only way I can stay in," and you're like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "It's Brooks' last day here," and then you get the idea of being institutionalized, and you see how much damage that can do to the prisoners here, where Brooks does not know how to function in the outside world. He's been in prison for 50 years, doesn't know how the
yeah,
modern world works. It's overwhelming, and he can't adapt quickly, and it's too
yeah.
overwhelming to the point where he ends it all, and you're like, fuck, that's sad.
It is. It really is. And it does show the like depressing. Well, I guess prison is depressing in general, but like I love it that they shine a spotlight on each, almost in each like prisoner. Like even with the sisters, um, ringleader. Like he gets enough screen time to be like we know the context and like we know who his character is, especially with Red, Andy Dufresne, uh,
Brooks.
Brooks, the Warden, Clancy Brown, and there's this new kid that comes in as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the quote of Red where he's like, well, they send you here for life, and that's exactly what they take. The parts that matter anyway. And you're like, again, you're like, fuck. This movie's full of lines where you're like, oh man, that hits so hard.
Yeah,
Why? Like, I think before that, Andy asked Red for like a hammer, like a small hammer.
yeah,
And he's like, ah, you'll never escape here with that. It'll take you 100 years. And he's like, right, sure. Uh, but yeah, we get introduced to young Tommy, who he wants to finish his education, and Andy is willing to do that while also he's helping people around him, like helping the guards with their what do you call that, taxes,
yeah.
helping the warden launder money, even though
Right.
obviously that's not the best thing. But he tells Red like, I came into prison an innocent man, but only in prison I learned how to be a crook, launder money. Even comes
Yeah,
up with a new identity, Harvey Stevenson, who never exists. He's a made up person, and you're like, fuck, you're smart. You're too smart for prison, that's for sure.
yeah. And like, by the way, we also find like I guess it was around by the end, we find out almost at the end that Andy didn't do it.
Yeah,
Like,
because Tommy says, like, Tommy asks Red, like, what's he in for? It's like, oh, he killed his wife and some rich golfer. And he's like, he didn't do that. What are you talking about? My cellmate
yeah,
did that.
yeah. I was like, what do you mean? And then like it cuts to a scene where there's this insane guy by the window.
Yeah,
Did they explain why he killed them?
I think
Right? Like I was like also thinking I was like, did I miss something? What was his motive of why he killed
the guy.
his wife?
I
And
For me, I'm like, I guess he just wanted the thrill of it. Um,
yeah, he just looked insane. So I was like, it's just like so much of a coincidence because it's like, like the guy, like Andy Dufresne just gets framed
yeah.
for
Um,
it too. So I'm like, all right,
going back a bit, he does send letters to the state to help increase the library, and they're just
oh yeah,
like, please never send us letters again. Here, have everything. I'm begging you. And like the last part, they like send him a record player too, and he like just locks the guy in the bathroom, starts playing Mozart. For
yeah,
one of the few times people in Shawshank are free, they feel free,
yeah,
but the warden is like, open the door right now, and Andy's like, nah, just turns it up louder. I'm like, I like this. I like Andy a lot.
yeah.
Um,
I swear, Andy Dufresne was such a character. Like, yeah, Red was like a good supporting, but yeah, Tom, what's his name?
Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins. There, like, I don't really remember any other role that he had such an impact compared to like Andy Dufresne's character.
Right? All I remember him from is Green Lantern. That's about it. I think he was Blake Lively's dad in that
That
one.
was really,
Yeah. And that's all I can really recall him from. But yeah, Tommy tells Andy, and Andy tells the warden. The warden's like, "He's making things up. You're gaslighting yourself. Don't believe him." And he's like, "Why are you so obtuse?" And the warden's like, "Oh, I'm obtuse. How about a month in solitary, you asshole?" He's like, "What? What did I do?" And then he brings out Tommy. The warden brings out Tommy. He's like, "Are you sure you want to commit to this all the way? You ready to testify in court?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm willing to help Andy because he helped me pass my exams."
Yeah.
Warden's
And he
like,
gets shot.
"Shot?"
I was like, what?
Right? You're like,
Like, by the way, what? You gone?
you're like, why?
Yeah. I was like, well, I guess it's because, like, there was bad blood, like, getting heated between Andy Dufresne and the warden.
Yeah, because before he's in
And-
solitary, he's like, "I won't tell anyone about the money laundering." He's like, "You shut the fuck up about that. Don't you ever
Yeah,
talk
so
about
he's
that."
too much of a liability.
Yeah,
So, like, I guess that's why he got shot.
yeah.
But, like, before, though, when I was watching it, like, in HBO, before, like, I just, like, made the decision to watch it fully, I didn't know there was this whole fucking other story besides Andy Dufresne breaking out of prison.
Right?
Like,
You're
so
like,
I was just so shocked.
before you're like, I guess this place is so shitty, and then it's like, peace. Even though you
Yeah.
don't know how much he tried to rehabilitate everything.
Yeah.
And that's the threat that the warden tells him of, like, "Oh, if you don't cooperate now, you think me killing Tommy was bad? Wait until see what I can do. I will break up the library. I will cause hell in this place. Worse for you. You'll remain in solitary forever." And then Andy's like, "I gotta get out of here, man. I can't be here forever." And then he tells Red throughout this whole movie is like, don't hope too much, because hope is a dangerous thing. It will drive you mad if you hope too much. But Andy is a bird with beautiful feathers who cannot be locked up. He refuses to be. And then I do love the speech where they're just talking, and Andy's like, "I guess when it comes down to it, you can get busy living or you can get busy dying. And that's the only way you can go about life, or in this prison." And in life in general, that line, when I first heard it, just hit in the right spot so hard. You're like, "Oh man, it's a brilliant line, but shit." And then that's when Andy enacts his plans, but first your anxiety goes up because it really looks like Andy is about to follow in Brooks' footsteps, and you're like, "Please, God, I don't want this movie to end with dead Andy. I really don't. I think this will kill me more than Bridge to Terabithia. I'm not gonna lie. If he does that." And then you're like Red, who stayed up all night, just filled with anxiety, because you're like, "I really like Andy. I really like Andy. I don't want him to die." And then they can't find him, or like they're calling for his attention, he doesn't answer, and you're like,
I
"Fuck!"
was like, dude, same here. I was just like, and I knew what the ending was. But the thing was, I was like, oh, did he unalive himself? I was like, wait a minute, he breaks out of prison.
Right? Like, I've seen the ending. I've seen it multiple times in Watch Mojo. Why am I just gaslighting myself? Is Watch Mojo gaslighting me? And then he just straight up disappears, and the warden's like, "Where is he? Find
he
him."
like tosses a stone.
And it goes
like,
through.
It goes through, and it's like,
It's like, it's supposed to bounce back.
yeah.
And,
And then like Red just gives an entire narration. It was like, Andy Dufresne broke out of prison the night before.
crawled
And I
through.
loved it. Yeah, crawled through was this 3 miles of shit? Just to
Football fields worth of shit just to regain freedom.
But dude, I love the entire like sequence of it. Like once he finally got out, like he had to like match
The thunder
the thunder with like hitting the
pipe.
was it a pipe?
Yeah. And then he just gets sprayed with shit, and he's like, "Nah, man, I don't want to go back. I really don't." Just crawls through shit and just makes it out the other side, a clean man. Literally a clean man. You're like, fuck, if that's the most beautiful shot in cinema history I've ever seen in my life. Not gonna lie. And then the next day, when everybody's looking for him, he goes to the banks as Harvey Stevenson, like just getting $300,000 worth of the warden some money and like,
Let's
shit.
go. Yeah, and then like like the warden was like found out for money laundering.
Yeah, because he switched his ledger for his Bible, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you like found that out, and then like the government's like, "Hey yo, who's stealing money?"
Yeah. Yeah, I do love the scene where the first time you see the quote of the Bible on the wall, like, his rat is coming right now, and you think it's for
Yeah.
Andy, but when the warden looks at it, he's like, oh, it's for me. I can
For
go,
me.
can go out fighting, but to be honest, I'm too much of a puss.
Yeah. So it's like it really sums up his character.
Yeah,
You know, like he's just very sleazy, power tripping
yeah.
piece of shit.
And as Red said, he can't. The two things that went through his mind were one, the bullet. Two was like, how did Andy Dufresne outsmart me? It's such a
Yeah.
great reveal when first he sees the shoes and he's like, that piece of shit. And then he sees the Bible and he sees the hammer that he used to dig himself out with. He's like, son of a fuck. Jesus
God
Christ.
damn it. And yeah, it just works out for Andy. And like he tells Red like there will be a tree and there will be a cool looking rock.
Yeah.
Look underneath it.
I think as cathartic and satisfying as Andy's escape is the last time Red is in the parole board. And he's
Yeah.
like, I think rehabilitation is just a made up word that you guys use to use guys like me to give them false hope. Can you please stop wasting my time? Because I don't give a shit anymore. And you're like, oh fuck.
I was like, he's good.
Yeah. And for a while you think, because again, he cannot adapt to the modern world. And you're like, I swear if this movie ends with a dead Red, I'm gonna die. It's gonna break me. But yeah, he finds the tree and the rock and what Andy has in store, and he meets up with his friend again, and you're like, fuck this movie. This movie's fucking great. Jesus
love
Christ.
Yeah, it was an amazing prison break kind of movie.
Yeah. Great beginning, middle, and like if there's anything close to a perfect movie, this definitely is.
I agree. It's such a banger, especially for the 90s. It was so good.
Yeah. For a while it held the highest score on IMDb, but this year it got overtaken by Dune Part 2.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was this, The Godfather, and some other movies. And now it's Dune Part 2, and then right below it is Shawshank, which is not an insult. Those are two really great movies. And if you can watch all three of them back to back, you're going to have a great time. Maybe not with The Godfather, because The Godfather is kind of sad. Not kind of, really sad. But Dune Part 2 and this one, you're like, God damn, I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, so I guess ratings.
Yeah, why not? Even though it's obvious what we're about to give it.
Yeah, it's very much a 10 out of 10. It's such a good, feel-good movie. Like, I get it, it's prison, but at the same time, we see a lot of the horrors and reality of prison. But through the trials and tribulations, like, Andy Dufresne is still a good man, and he just wanted a normal life in prison.
Yeah.
And he wanted that for everybody else. That's the feel-good aspect of it, and I love that part. And builds on his character and what he means to the other prisoners.
Yeah.
And especially to the warden and like the main what do you call it, the captain,
Yeah.
Clancy Brown,
Yeah.
just him. And like it's such a good build up to a point where he's got his back pushed up against the wall, but he already planned it out.
Yeah.
He already planned out his escape and everything, so he's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we lost a couple of characters, and it's devastating. I don't know how they do that. They give every character such great dialogue that the fact that you can immediately be like, you're that character.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay, that's enough for me. Like I know who you are, and the loss of them, or if anything happens to them, is so devastating.
Yeah.
Like the kid who was like just studying, and Brooks, where he's like, this man has been brought down to his knees to a point where he can't even go back to a normal life.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. Like, the writing of this movie was so fucking good. So I just gotta give it that. It's a 10 out of 10, and that's what it deserves.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Same. I again can never see myself giving this anything less than a 10 out of 10. It's definitely one of the greatest, if not the greatest movie ever to be made. There's definitely an argument for that, and it's just such a feel good movie. Even though there are times where it just crushes you, like Tommy's
Yeah,
death.
it beats you to the ground.
Tommy's death, you're just like, the warden really is a piece of shit. But Brooks' death, you're like, fuck, he got crushed by the overwhelming weight of life outside. You're like,
Yeah.
fuck me, shit. And that's why his escape and freedom for Andy is just so earned and so feels so cat- cathartic, inspiring, satisfying. That by the end of this movie, you're like, I feel good. Even though at the beginning you're like, Andy really is going to the shitter, huh? And like his crawl in that sewer is definitely a metaphor for his entire time in prison. Uh, but yeah, it's just again a great movie, and the fact that they made it out of a book that was so paper thin into one fantastic movie, you're like, that's craftsmanship right there. I don't think Frank Darabont did anything else aside from The Mist after this. So yeah, I've seen The Mist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Stephen King, two Stephen Kings, and I guess he just said, "I'm retiring."
Hey, is Shawshank a Stephen King movie? Book?
Yeah, it's from like a short story. It literally is just a short
I
story.
did not know that.
Yeah, the novella is called Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. And
Oh. Oh, okay. That's cool because it's the name of the actress.
yeah,
Yeah. Alright.
but yeah, um, yeah, I don't know how to end this video. I'm kidding. No, is there any movie for you that you can just watch it anytime, anywhere, no matter where it is in the movie, like middle, end, 10 minutes before the end, 10 minutes into the beginning?
This is gonna sound very underwhelming. Because I say Jurassic Park, and I would say, yeah, Jurassic Park would be great.
Okay.
So I'm gonna change it up and say Pacific Rim.
Yeah, man, it's fucking badass.
Yeah.
As of recent, not gonna lie, it's the Batman. Cause fuck that, those 3 hours are addicting.
I'm like, oh, okay. Like, it's still, I'll still get a good story. Maybe 10, like, if there's 10 minutes left, you know?
Right? That, Lord of the Rings, maybe Star Wars for me, and Jurassic Park and Pacific Rim for you. Yeah, there are movies that you're like, I can watch this forever, and I'll be happy forever. But yeah, to the audience watching, what's that movie for you? Whether it be, I don't know, the first Avengers, The Dark Knight, The Godfather, or any romantic movies that you find inspiring or just like to watch, modern or otherwise. But yeah, that's been our video for The Shawshank Redemption. What do you guys think? If you like our videos, please leave them a like, subscribe, and ding the bell icon to get notified of when we upload next. We're also on Spotify and TikTok to see our best and funniest moments. Spotify to hear us on the go. Individually, I am Zoe Does Voices on TikTok and Enswolf on Letterboxd. Where can they find you, good sir?
You find me at JohnGM_ on Instagram. It is my account.
And until the next time, we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Oh.